Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us during Florida Shines College Success Series. My name is Nashla Daware, and I will be facilitating today's session. Now, before we begin, I want to go over a few items with you. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box or in the question box, and we will address them during the Q&A, which will be live at the end of this session. Closed captioning is provided for this session as well, and you can click the link in the chat box to get to it. This session will be recorded, and the recording, along with any materials shared today, will be posted to our website, FloridaShines.org. Finally, we are live on Twitter, so feel free to share your comments and connect with us at FlShines, and you can use the hashtag CollegeSuccess throughout the event. Now, the past 3 weeks in April, we've hosted our College Success Series, and you've learned about choosing the right major, you've learned about the college admissions process here in Florida, and you've learned about all of the resources available to pay for college. Today, it's about bringing it all together and looking into the future, learning about yourself and matching your interests and your goals with the perfect career. Now, Florida offers a state-funded tool, FloridaShines, and here to tell us all about it is Maggie. Maggie is a global career development facilitator and a certified career advisor, and she provides face-to-face training and follow-up support in the central and south regions of Florida for FloridaShines. She is your go-to contact to learn more about FloridaShines and to get started. We're very lucky to have her with us today. So thank you, Maggie. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me. Glad to be here. Okay, we will get started. That was a great intro. Thank you, Nashla. And so the first thing that I'd like to share about FloridaShines is we actually have 3 systems. One for elementary school that's being developed as we speak, and that would be for little ones that will be exploring the career clusters through gameplay. What you're going to see today is more about our middle and high school program called Computer Navigator, available from 6th grade to 12th grade. And then for life after high school, any kind of adult user, we have a system called Journey. I will be referring to FloridaShines, not necessarily Navigator, but this is the focus for middle and high school. For most of you on here are focused on high school. Okay, if we had to come up with a definition for FloridaShines, this would be it. It is a shared service. It's funded through the legislature, so our taxpayer dollars go to support it. And it's for every resident, as I just referred to, in the state of Florida. So FloridaShines provides career awareness and readiness for all Floridians. I like to also refer to it as a transition tool from high school to post-secondary. We certainly don't have time to go into every component of FloridaShines, so the counselors out there, I'm promoting call me out for training. I'll be there, and you'll know all that you need to know about FloridaShines. But we're going to look at some of these features today. We start with assessments, some highly researched career assessments that students take. And from those assessments, they can explore career clusters and suggested pathways based on how they answer their assessment results. And then digging deeper into what occupations are suggested for me based on how I took my assessment. And then, of course, there are secondary programs and majors that they can explore, and finding those institutions that support where our students want to go so they can be what they can achieve to be. And then, of course, finding financial aid. We have a whole database of scholarships. So we will look at some of these features. But really, after the training, after we provide training for our counselors, they can provide this for their students. And after students register for their own accounts, these are the things that they will be able to do. So assess their interests, skills, and their work values, explore careers and occupations, especially based on their assessment results. And then identify educational requirements for jobs. And this wouldn't be just college. It could be a post-secondary institution like a career center for an industry certification. Finding and applying for financial aid and scholarships. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And our 8th graders are encouraged to use the system to develop a 4-year educational plan. And, of course, using their assessment results to help decide what programs of study that they might be interested in. And finally, our system develops an electronic portfolio for students where they will start building resumes and cover letters and putting into their portfolio any artifacts that would showcase their skills and talents. And as soon as students activate that piece, they can use that to market themselves when they transition for post-secondary. So you'll see that at the very end. And then we also want you to know that FloridaShines is a web-based platform that can be used on any device. So now our students or anyone who has an account can, sit at the dentist and while they're waiting, update their resume or take a career assessment. So it's very convenient as long as you have a smart device. Okay, so we are going to talk about what's inside of FloridaShines. And of course, I want to point out we have 2 resources we'll be talking about, but you have a resource tab. So if I refer to a resource, that is where you would go. We have instructions to register for a brand new account. If we have students on the line that do not have one, you will find that in the resource tab. I also want to point out at this point there is also a parent handbook. The parent handbook is a 15-page tool for parents to begin engaging in the process with their own children in career planning. So mycareershines.org is the URL that you would use to register. And you're in the right place when you see this young woman looking up at the word career. So once students register, they have access to 3 assessments. And the 3 boxes you see in the center of the screen are the results that will always be on the dashboard, the most recent results. The dashboard has a few interesting items. It has a Spanish translation. You can see that at the top. Within a student's account setting, they can invite parents, and we talk about this in training and we demonstrate how to do this. So the students have to invite the parents, and then the parents have access to a parent portal. This is a kind of a new feature and very exciting. So this is the dashboard, and then I'm just going to pop on and show you the menu. So the left-hand menu is where we spend most of our time in training. And you can see it's chunked out in things to do and then my portfolio items. So we're going to look at some of these features within that menu. The first feature that I'd like to show you is if after you take your career assessment, those metrics are used to provide students with a suggested list of occupations to begin exploring. And this is an example. We also have lots of workforce data. Once a student goes in and clicks on one of those, I'll show you in a moment. But what you're looking for is how are they aligned in their interests, skills, and values? What is the demand in the state? You can see that last column. And then the symbols that you see there indicate a 10-year growth in that occupation. So if your accounts are on the line, what we do in training is show you how to use this tool you see in front of you to help guide students in looking for occupations that will be meaningful to them. And this just shows you, once I clicked on one of those, public relations specialist, for example, and you can see the tabs across the page. Due to time, we're not going into those. The students can explore, what does it look like? What are the tasks and conditions? What are the values, my interests, skills, and work values overview? What is the education I need to become, for example, a public relations specialist? And I think the tab that students love the most is the next one, which is, what can I make? What is the salary for that occupation? And within that tab, there's also local workforce data. And then we have related occupations and then some additional information. So that's a quick overview of once a student explores occupations. But based on my audience today, I decided to go into a little bit more depth in the tab of Explore Schools. When a student does click on Explore Schools, I chose University of Florida, for example, they can actually go to the tab, the blue tab you see there at the bottom, the online application, and apply to that school when it's time. Our school counselors are loving the fact that this feels like a one-stop shop for our students to transition. And you can also see you've got the majors that are offered, information about admissions, that cost and financial aid information, and then some additional information. So the second tab that I mentioned are the programs. It's just a list of programs at, for example, University of Florida. The next tab is some cost and financial aid data. That might be some helpful information for parents when they're helping their students decide where they're going to end up going based on their interest. So we've got lots of graphs and tables and data that comes from the National Center for Educational Statistics. And then under the Plan for Education tab, there are 8 different buttons that I wanted to share with you and some things that you can do under Plan for Education. Plan for Education has a scholarship search, and this is what the page looks like. There usually are 300 to 400 scholarships at any time for students in high school. So we certainly encourage our students, even as early as 9th and 10th grade, to start looking to see what's out there. Once a student clicks on one of these scholarships, they actually can apply to that scholarship right from their My FloridaShines account. So they would read, am I eligible for the scholarship, and then go ahead and apply. Lots of money waiting to be given away for our students. And next I'm going to talk about my job search tools. I don't like to do this. I'm going to go back for 1 second. One tab I did not open under Plan for Education is the area where parents can also apply for the FAFSA. And I know that that's covered in this series. I didn't want to go into that, but the FAFSA link is available there under Plan for Education, where students can apply to their FAFSA. Back to my job search tools, we encourage all of our high school students to begin building resumes. They are needed many times when applying to post-secondary institutions or to enter the workforce. So you can see here, these are sections that students can click on, and each of those sections are a fillable form. And I'm going to show you, once all of these sections are filled in, then students can edit at any time. They have the system, in the blink of an eye, creates a resume for them. So they don't have to do any of the formatting. The biggest deal would be to make sure their spelling is correct and they're using proper techniques and wording. But it's just so wonderful that the system creates the resume for the students, and it's accessible as soon as it's complete. The next resource I wanted to share is not new anymore, but it was one of our last rollouts, is the 4-year education plan. And as I said earlier, we encourage our 8th graders to complete these, and we're really pushing that in middle school. So by the time they get to high school, the school and the parent can see at a glance the plan for the next 4 years and ensuring they're taking the most rigorous courses to be the most competitive. And finally, as far as our slides go, we're going to show you the culmination of all of this. It's what we call the e-profile. And the e-profile is it's a web page that our system builds for the student. And as you can see on the screen, you start to customize it. It's got all kinds of customizable sections. But right in the middle, you'll see, once a student publishes, they have their own URL, and the URL is shareable by the student. It cannot be searched. It cannot be Googled. We do protect the student that way. But, for instance, if they're going into audition, maybe for a musical spot at a college or university, they could, or any kind of interview, they could send this prior to the interview, this link you see on your screen. And the next slide is a snapshot of what that web page looks like. So I'll share with you, and then you preview and you can publish. And then here is an example of what the page looks like. It goes on down. You can see there's an About Me section. There's also a section just for the resume. So the resume becomes a natural part of their web page. And you can see up at the top, if the student has a social media like Twitter or LinkedIn, or even, for example, YouTube, if they have a performance, maybe you have a drum major that's applying for a position in a musical program at a college or university, they could actually have a video of them performing. So right there in that link, and that is shareable. So as you can see, there's so much in My Career Shines available for our students. And what I like to say to the parents online, what I'd like to say to the students and the counselors is never before have our Florida students have they had such a tool to leverage themselves and compete for positions at post-secondary institutions or into the workforce. So in training, the counselors walk away knowing how to register their students and use this as a tool to help guide them from the time they take a career assessment and explore what they might want to be, right down to applying to those colleges. So my next slide is actually, the teacher in me can't help it but give some homework. So I'm going to ask for our students to think about what you saw and go into that resource tab and find your registration instructions. Register for your My Career Shines account. If you've created any kind of Facebook or Twitter, it's so simple. It's the same kind of process. And then, see your counselor for next steps. Every counselor in the state of Florida should know and should be using My Career Shines. So you will have access to my information, my email. So if that's not the case, you can contact me, and then I can connect with that school. So feel free to contact me. Counselors, contact me to schedule a training. I'm ready to go. My June, I've got lots of dates in June. I know that's summer, but my calendar is starting to fill up for our August and September. So I would love to hear from you. Even if you've had a training, it might be time for round 2. But if you haven't had a training, be sure to contact me or register those students before the end of the year. And for our parents, what we'd like for you to do is contact your child's counselor about how you can be engaged in their education and career planning. Download the Parents Handbook. It's on the Resource tab, but it will also be in your own account once your student invites you. And again, if the counselor needs any support, please contact me. And I think that's what I have for you today. Did we want to move on to questions?
Absolutely, Maggie. Thank you so much for sharing that information. I learned a couple of things that I need to go back into my account for and check out. So thank you for sharing that overview. You talked a little bit, Maggie, about the assessments for students. Can you share a little bit more about whether or not you have to take all assessments to start the exploration process, and then how long it takes to take the assessments?
That's a great question. And it's funny, when you design these webinars, you never know how much detail to go into. So I would love to share that. So yes, we have 3 assessments. One is career interest. What is interesting to you regarding career? And the second one is a skills confidence, and that's assessing the confidence level of the student in when the question is related to actions or activities. And then the third assessment is work values. So what's important to me in the workplace? So when those metrics come together, that is where the student's suggested occupations come into play. I'm going to go back to that slide. One second, please. So after those assessments are taken, and to answer your other question about the time is 12 to 14 minutes apiece. There are 60 questions, and the students really are encouraged to read it, and really answer with their gut and move through them. So after the assessments are taken, that's where students' suggested assessment results are provided. So they won't get this list until they take those assessments. And another part of your question is very important. It's important, and not necessarily in one day, but take all 3, because by the time you take your 3rd assessment, your assessment results are even more specific and accurate based on those metrics. Does that make sense?
Thanks, Maggie. So, Maggie, I also wanted to ask you about counselors and how you're training for counselors and for schoolworks, and what the levels of training might be and what the different trainings offer.
Sure. Our initial training is face-to-face. It is, I'm asking for 3.5 hours. We've got breaks in there, or a lunch could be in between, but it's about 3.5 hours, and we cover way more than you saw here. We go into depth, and really with our counselors, how to use the tools and resources as tools for helping their students to guide them toward a career pathway. And then, so we've got some activities that we do to help build that. So the trainings are very, very in-depth, but they walk away with the knowledge of how to use this with their students, and also lots of tools and resources that we provide. The end of that training, the last 40 minutes or so, we talk about the teacher-facing side. So the school counselor will be able to run reports. We call that our administrative database management system. So they will run reports. We have marketing materials in there, lots of curriculum. It's just a great place for resources for the teacher or the counselor, whoever's overseeing the student.
Thanks, Maggie. Related to that, once the counselors are trained and they're ready to go and they get their students started on My FloridaShines, in terms of accounts, how long can they have their account, and how do they transition from middle school to high school to college, and then to life after college?
That's such a great question. We first of all, we encourage use of this starting in 6th grade, and using it over time. That's where students are really going to benefit. So they use it through 8th grade. They build their plan. They take their assessments every year is what we encourage. So they're in 11th grade, 12th grade. They're really starting to think about this transition to post-secondary. What happens is and I manage this kind of site-to-site for schools and districts. But what happens is when students are seniors, let's say back to that person was going to University of Florida, and let's say they're going to Lakeland High School in Polk County, and they get accepted to University of Florida, that student will tell the system, and we show this in training, we share this, I have graduated, and they receive a code, and they put that in, and suddenly all of their data has migrated to that institution. So they can tell the system I've graduated and where they are. If a student goes to a technical school, the same technical college, that would be the same process. If they enter the workforce, they will tell the system I have left high school and I've entered the workforce. So we really, I think this is what makes our system stand out than the others out there. We say that this is like K to gray, as in gray hair. So kindergarten to gray hair. So this can be used for a lifetime. And once a student is in the workforce, we encourage them to keep their accounts, keep taking their assessments, because it will be theirs for a lifetime. That URL that I shared before, that will be theirs. As long as we have our contract, which I hope will be a very long time, I'm sure it will be, they will be able to do everything as long as we have our contract. If that ends, and many years from now, if that ends, they can still keep their accounts. They just won't be able to take assessments, but they will still have that URL to use it as a marketing tool. We also share this lots of times during career nights with parents, and we encourage parents to go to mycareershines.org as adults, create your own account as an adult user to help market yourself as well. So parents on the line, if you're interested in that, you would take those same registration instructions, but instead of clicking on I'm a high school student, you will click on I'm an adult job seeker. So this is available to all inclusive.
Thanks, Maggie. And so true to always think about keep using the system, because as you transition to new experiences, your interests change. You may be looking at other areas, and so it's a great tool to continue to use, Maggie. We're going to go ahead and put your contact information up on the screen so that parents and counselors and students know how to get a hold of you and connect with you. But while we're doing that, Maggie, I also wanted to ask you and go back to the assessments portion.
Sure.
We have a question about the assessments and whether or not they are strictly related to academics or purely career interests, or if it's a combination.
Okay. Are you going to read the question, or is that the question?
Yeah, that's the question. Sorry. Whether or not the assessments are related to academics or career interests, or a combination of both.
That's a great question, actually. So the assessments are career focused. Again, there's the interest, and that's focused on career. Then the skills confidence. And the questions there are task questions like, what is your confidence level in building a birdhouse, or installing a light switch, or interpreting a medical lab report? So they're work-focused questions for sure. And the third assessment is based on work values and what work values are important to people or to the person taking the assessment. So because occupations are assigned work values can be assigned to specific occupations. Once a student takes that third assessment, their list of occupations actually change because those metrics are coming into play. So to answer the question, these are not academic focused. Now, within the portfolio, students can house all kinds of academic data. They can house their ACT and SAT scores to be part of their portfolio. They can house their maybe a Myers-Briggs personality quiz, an ASVAB score, any kind of document that showcases their skills and talents. That could be academic focused. So to answer the question, it is career focused, those 3 assessments for sure.
Thank you so much, Maggie. We are out of questions, but I wanted to see if there was anything else you wanted to add before we closed our session.
Yes, I would like to add something. I want everyone on the line to know, whether you're a parent, a student, or a counselor, this is funded. There aren't many legislatively supported programs in our schools. We have a lot of mandates that come down, but they're not funded often. So this is funded. We are taxpayers who are paying for it. So first of all, to use the system is at no cost, and it's at no cost for a lifetime. Also, to have me come and hop in my car and come to your school or district, that is also funded. So please keep that in mind. And also for the parents, your parent portal, your engagement is also at no cost. So every reason in the world to use it. We do know for our counselors out there that students who use this over time, 90% of them, and this was a study that we did, 90% of our students transition to post-secondary. And the main reason for that is they know what they want to be, and they change their majors less once they're in college. So they know, they've been thinking about it, and they've been planning. You know, the motto at our company is, dream big, but plan accordingly, and that's what this is all about.
Thank you so much, Maggie. I couldn't agree more, and this really applies throughout our college series topics. Makes a world of difference if you have a plan and you're making educated, informed decisions about every step of that plan to get to your goal and then continue to look into the future. So I want to thank you again for sharing this information. This is a great tool. Like you said, it's available, so why not take advantage of it? I want to remind our audience that these presentations and all of the materials that Maggie used today will be available on FloridaShines.org, and so you'll have that available to download. And so thank you, Maggie, for joining us today again and sharing that information, and thank you to our audience.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.